Welcome to another episode of Healthy Living, Happy Life podcast. I'm your host, Denise Stegall, menopause mentor and longevity concierge. Essentially, I help successful women in midlife to rediscover energy, harmony, joy in their bodies, in their lives, without restriction, yay, stress, or sacrificing everything they love. Today, I'm going to talk about something that I talk about quite a bit, but in a little bit of a different way. We're going to talk about whole foods, yes, eat real food, whole foods and harmony. Why diets do not work in midlife, and they never really did, and what actually does. So truly, we're going to unpack how whole foods, instead of fad diets, we've all been on them, right, can help you to feel like yourself again in midlife. And midlife is different for each person, right? Perimenopause can begin in our mid-30s. Progesterone starts to drop at 35. But we typically don't tend to feel the symptoms or realize what the symptoms are until we're closer to 40. So again, midlife for everyone is a little bit different. So I'm also going to share why that all or nothing mentality is sabotaging your success. I talk about sabotage a lot. How hormones, because they're shifting behind the scenes in the body, and how my client Marta found freedom through real food and a smart strategy. Okay. Key thing here, diets are out, whole foods are in. Okay. So let us begin. Wow. So I like to call this the midlife shift because there's a friggin' shift, isn't there? Um, and we think of it as a time where we're kind of starting to fall apart. Midlife is not a decline, it's a transition. All women go through it. And with the right tools, or without the right tools, it can kind of feel like you're in a free fall. Been there, done that. It took a lot of years for me to understand what was going on. And the free fall feeling that I had was ridiculous. It affected every aspect of my life, personal, professional, physical, all of the above, right? But the truth is here, most of us have been conditioned to believe the diet culture that makes us believe, or that has us believing, that we need to eat less, cutting carbs, push harder, work out more. But in reality, when it comes to real health, it's about eating real food, making good decisions, and being accountable to your body's needs, but not somebody else's expectations, right? We're all different. We all need things a little different. Now, for those of you who have listened to me time and again, you hear me talk about eat real food, make good decisions, be accountable. It is the pillars, I call them the pillars of success in my book, Healthy Living, Happy Life, which incidentally is the name of this podcast, right? But truly, you are not imagining these changes that are happening to you. Your energy is lower. Your mood is different. It may be a little more volatile than ever. And every day your body is a little bit more unpredictable. Like things just, oh, where did that come from? Right. And of course, you've probably tried eating clean, working out more, skipping meals, bad idea. But still, nothing is working, nothing feels right, and everything or something at least feels off. That's honestly because at this stage, the rules of the game have changed. So it's time you change your strategy, right? Lots of games that we play have a strategy, right? And, I'm going to use football because I know a little bit about football. I went to Penn State, so yes, I did go to a lot of football games. But a coach may have a strategy going into the game, right? And for the first quarter or the first half of the game, it's not working. So they go into halftime and they come out, and all of a sudden they're scoring and they're kicking butt, and things are all of a sudden working well, right? Why? Because at halftime, so we'll just call menopause halftime here, the coach changed the strategy, right? So if it works in sports, certainly works in midlife too, right? It's just about strategy change. So hormones, metabolism, menopause, All three of those words totally go together, don't they? Because in menopause, our metabolism is doing all sorts of weird things. Our hormones are going up and down and left and right. They're just doing all sorts of things. But as estrogen and progesterone are declining, and as I mentioned earlier, progesterone starts dropping when we are 35, ladies. Again, estrogen probably not until closer to our 40s. But then, of course, our metabolism starts changing with that. Estrogen has over 300 jobs, let's just say, in the body, and it works with all the different systems in our body, the endocrine system, your cardiovascular system, your brain function, and estrogen is a big deal. Well, who knew that, right? Well, we do know these things now, but not necessarily all of our doctors do. But let's think of this as our metabolism is changing, hormones are changing. We actually have an increase in food cravings. Actually, that's progesterone that's doing that. Our sleep quality starts to plummet. Maybe we're waking up in the middle of the night. Maybe we fall asleep and then wake up, or we can't sleep at all. And so slowly we start to see the scale creeping, right? We start to see the little meno belly that I talked about a couple of episodes ago. And it's not because you're doing anything wrong. Okay. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong. I'll say that because when it comes to food and nutrition and metabolism and hormones and menopause, there is a good way to do things and let's just say not so good way to do things. Never like to say good and bad, right? But there's always a better way. So what is happening here? What is estrogen affecting other than everything, right? It's affecting your distribution of fat and insulin sensitivity. Now, the challenge, of course, is the more fat we have, the more sensitive we are to insulin. So those things go together, right? Of course they do. I mean, it makes sense, right? But when we really start to think about it, like that little extra roll in your tummy, could that really cause us to have more insulin sensitivity that could eventually become insulin resistant? Yep, it can, ladies. So the other thing, and this is what I mentioned before a couple minutes ago about your brain, neurotransmitters in your brain, serotonin, dopamine, which regulate mood, motivation, and memory, are all affected. Now, when your estrogen starts to drop, the neurotransmitters in your brain are not connecting as quickly. This is why we're finding brain fog. We can't remember where we put our glasses, or, just the forgetfulness that we think is, part of aging. That's actually what part of what is happening is your brain's just, your brain's not firing the way it used to. So that's about estrogen. Progesterone affects your nervous system. Let's say regulation. When our nervous system is always then on, kind of like that, it's our flight or fight. I never say that right. I say it wrong every single time. I may have actually gotten it right this time. Your flight or fight, right, system, if that's deregulated and that's on all the time, your cortisol levels are starting to increase. Again, flight or fight, always kind of like up. And that's where you start to feel, I hate to use the word anxiety, but more anxious and kind of stressed out. Well, the more we are stressed out, the more anxious we feel, the more our cortisone is going through the roof. And the challenge with that is the more cortisone there is, the harder it is for us to fall asleep and go to sleep, which then increases our cortisol even more. So progesterone and estrogen, we talk about these, and I'm going to throw testosterone in here for real quick, as the sex hormones or hormones for childbearing. These are these are hormones for life, for living, for a healthy life. Bottom line, okay, we didn't know that, right? When we were younger, we were just kind of told that, this is how you have babies, you need these hormones to have babies, when we're, young and we're at that stage where we're starting to get our period. We learn about this, and what these hormones are for. And then when you're in your childbearing years, obviously, this is really important. But they're equally as important when we're out of our childbearing years. Okay, we didn't know that, did we? Again, progesterone, as I mentioned earlier, restorative sleep goes down the tubes. And with all of this, our emotional stability, or let's just say there's a lot of emotional instability, right? Volatility. I remember when I was in high school, my best friend from high school, she was one of those gals who, when she got her period, she was evil. Like she would say things like that she would never normally say, but her moods were horrible, and she was kind of mean. And it was the only time ever, because of the her hormones back then, which were, 100% where they needed to be. And now, of course, down the road, they're not where they need to be. But it definitely, these hormones affect us pretty much all throughout our lives. That's really the point I was getting at. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, actually, these are hormones that affect us our entire life. Okay, I said it correctly that time. So there was a study I saw recently. It wasn't such a recent study. It was a 2012 study in obstetrics and gynecology. And that found that when diet and exercise remained consistent, when you were doing the same thing, not changing anything, perimenopausal women still experienced increase of visceral fat and insulin resistance. Remember, I mentioned both of these a minute ago, but I didn't really speak about visceral fat. So what is that? Visceral fat is that fat, that stored fat that's kind of deep in the abdomen, and it surrounds our organs, liver, stomach, intestines. This is the kind of fat, this is bad fat. The other kind of fat there's the subcutaneous fat, which is, located just beneath the skin, like a little bit, like a little bit of here, right? That's your subcutaneous fat. We are really concerned with subcutaneous fat, because that fat, that when it surrounds our organs, is really unhealthy for us, and it can really cause many health issues. So as you can see, this is not about discipline. Like they were saying, eat less, work out more. It's not about discipline. It's about biology. My husband loves to say that biology is the study of naming things. Not sure what we're naming this here. I guess we're naming it menopause, right? Our biology needs better support here. It doesn't need restriction. It needs a better support. It actually may need more support, more, not less. So I had this client, her name is Marta, and she did say that I can talk about this. Won't get into the gory details, but kind of just for the benefit of the conversation. Marta was 42, almost 42, when she came to me, exhausted, frustrated. She was a stay-at-home mom to active kids. So of course she's driving all over the place, because, they're a few years apart. So they're doing different activities. Her son was doing one thing and the daughter was doing another. I think they were soccer and gymnastics. And of course, they're not, the practices weren't right in the same area of town. So, her schedule was like basically nonstop from the time she got up and was doing stuff with her kids. And she honestly thought she was doing everything right. Not that she was doing anything wrong. She wasn't. She was eating salad. She would have fruit for snacks. She would have those, healthy snacks that they talk about at the supermarket. She would have those around. But truly, she'd say, but by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she was completely spent. So what we did was we spent. I'm really big on food logging, and I really had her pay attention to her food log. What was she eating? When was she eating it? I don't love calorie counting, but it really does help to show you where you are. If you're eating enough protein, if you're not eating enough protein. And for menopausal women, we need protein. Right? Protein is essential. Protein helps us to build the muscle that we actually start to lose because of menopause, because of course, there you go, there's that estrogen and progesterone loss. And that equals muscle loss as well. Sheesh, we just got a lot of things going on, don't we? Yes, we do. So what we found with her log, we kind of found this disconnect. So she's got it in her head that she's eating healthy, but she was eating so many things with, with hidden sugars, a lot of artificial sweeteners and fillers that just didn't make any sense. Added to the calories, but not necessary to the quality of the food. Salad dressings, store-bought salad dressings, these kill me. One, I cannot eat them anymore because they taste like plastic to me. Because I make my own salads. It's really easy, everyone. A little bit of olive oil, a little bit of vinegar, salt, and pepper. There you go. You got a dressing. Really simple. And so what was happening was she was eating a lot of stuff that she thought was healthy, but really was not sustaining her wasn't really giving her the nourishment that she needed, her body needed. So, of course, by halfway through the day or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she was tired. So, of course, we went back to what I always like to call is I mentioned this earlier, the pillars of success, right? We went back to Healthy Living, Happy Life book, which is behind me. You can see it, the yellow one behind me. For those of you who are listening, it's a yellow book. It's called Healthy Living, Happy Life. You can find it on Amazon. um, so we looked at real food, eating real food. So leafy greens, healthy fats, clean proteins, fiber-rich grains. So when I talk about eat real food, you can put it another way: whole foods, foods that are that kind of are grown, or food in their simplest form, right? Not a lot of additives, very, very simple. Not that simple is bad or flavorless, because we can do a lot with simple whole foods when it comes to herbs and spices, making some homemade dressings and sauces. A friend of mine, she recently we were doing a volunteer effort at Ronald McDonald's house here in Rochester, Minnesota, and she had made homemade barbecue sauce. Oh my God, this was the best barbecue sauce I had ever had. And of course, no added sugar, no high fructose corn syrup, or any of the crapola that they put in dressings and sauces today. It was delicious. So simple, simple things, not very time consuming. Excuse me. But when it comes to whole foods, these are the things that add up quickly. Excuse me, I need to take a sip of my drink. All righty. So eat real food. Make good decisions. Ha ha ha. Talk about this a lot. She learned to choose the foods based on how they actually made her feel, not what the label promised, right? How many times do you pick up something in the supermarket and it'll say gluten-free and it's protein? Yeah, well, steak is always gluten-free, everyone. But they put these labels on our foods really to trick us and to make us think, oh, it's gluten-free. Oh, it's, fat-free. Fat-free is bad. If you ever see something that says fat-free, put it down, run away, run away. When they've taken fat out of food, they've taken most of the flavor away. And so that's when they've replaced it with all of these artificial sweeteners and additives and just stuff that you can't even pronounce, right? So the third, of course, is accountability, personal accountability. As women, we have a hard time with this because we make sure that we're accountable to everybody else before ourselves, right? But this was really important. You're going through this transition. Now, granted, people around you are experiencing it too, but you're really experiencing it. So you need to feel energized, confident, clear, clarity. This is all about you and how you feel, how you function, and how you thrive. It's not about me as a coach. It's absolutely about you as the client, as the individual, as that midlife woman who's going, shoot, I'm 52 years old and I feel like hell. I got a long life ahead of me. I don't want to feel like this. And you shouldn't, and you don't have to. That's the key. So Marta's transformation was quite amazing. It's probably been about 2 years. It was real, eat real food. It was lasting. Like I said, she and I worked together for about 2 years. And honestly, she says, this is fun. She has the kids in the kitchen with her, cooking foods, making sauces. So she says, there's joy around food now, where it was just kind of something that just, filled their tummies because they were hungry. There was actual joy and pleasure around meals and snacks. So let's talk now, meal snacks. Let's talk about change the topic a little bit and go towards more conversation about the diet culture. I don't want to talk too much about this because I want to focus more, of course, on the good stuff, not the negative stuff. Again, diet culture. And I remember I grew up in the 80s. And 80s and 90s, and that was the low carb, low fat, low everything, tastes like crap food. So they filled it with lots of sugar and lots of other stuff that doesn't belong in food. What do they say? They want us to eat less. They want us to take full food groups out of our diet. So many of these crazy diets out there. And when we're younger, our bodies can kind of adapt to them in the short term. Long-term diets have never worked. You may have that one friend, one who, she's been on this diet and it was perfect for her forever. But let's talk to that same friend now in her 50s, her late 40s and early 50s, and see, if she's singing a different tune. I would say she is, right? So diet culture, eat less, be thinner, be skinny. Remember, like skinny jeans back then in the 80s were like not just skinny jeans. These were like you couldn't breathe because they were so tight, right? I don't know why we ever did that. Really, ladies, why? But also it was like exercise more. Exercise, exercise, exercise. Now I'm a runner, never used to be a runner. Growing up, I was an athlete, I was a fencer, and I was a dancer. And so I got my exercise doing sport and doing dance. So for me, it was never really a thing to have to work harder because I went to practice 5 or 6 days a week. And especially in high school, like all the seasons kind of like went back to back to back. So there was never a time really that I wasn't moving and doing something physical. Um, but as when I got out of college, of course, that changed. I wasn't fencing anymore. I wasn't on the dance team anymore. So exercise, movement, play, give it a name, was very different. And it was something I actually had to think about. And, I tried all sorts of things. I mean, literally, ladies, I've tried all of the things. I've done CrossFit, I've done Orange Theory, which I actually really enjoyed. I've done some other boot camps, Pilates, yoga, which I do love on like maybe a weekly basis. But for me, it wasn't something that really it doesn't get your heart rate going. At least the way that running and brisk walking does, and especially weight training. Weight training, weight training, weight training. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about diet culture. But again, diet culture said, eat less, work out more, harder, the harder the better, which even then it was exhausting. But at this stage in life, we were already struggling with energy and low mood. This is not the time to be, eating less and working out more. Absolutely not. There is a total disconnect from our bodies. Okay, that's with this workout more, eat less thing. Now, granted, if you're trying to lose weight, you do have to pay attention. You have to eat less than perhaps you have been, because when we gain weight, you know, eating less, because if once you start tracking, you will start to notice like, oh, I'm eating 2,100 calories a day. Now I'm 5 foot tall, and like I said, I'm a runner. I'm a runner. I lost my train of thought. Calories, that was it. Even as a runner, my top the amount of calories that my body actually requires during a day is only about 1,500 calories. Now, granted, if I'm going to go run 6 or 7 miles, not that I do that often, but if I'm going to go run 6 or 7 miles, I'm going to need a little bit more. So I probably sit around 1,300, 1,400 calories. Now, that's not to say what you need, because all of us, again, are different, body composition, height, what your current weight is, and your activity level. All of those things play into how many calories you need. But again, when we start thinking, for me, if 1400 is what my body needs, and I'm thinking, oh, well, I can just do 1,000 calories and still live my life, something's going to fall apart there, right? If I'm still running or doing my 2 or 3 day work, 2 or 3 day a week weight training. So I do weight training 2 days, and then there's usually a hit day in there. I'm going to fall apart. One, my body is going to say, I'm not going to have the energy to do it. I'm going to be more prone to injury. I don't like that idea, because if you get injured, you're 6 weeks out, right? At least. So diet culture, dieting, eat less, work out harder. There's a disconnect in our body. There's a better way to do this, a better way to think about it, right? Your body is smarter. Our bodies are smarter than we are, right? Because we get stuck in our own heads, but our bodies are always trying to tell us something, right? What are the tools, and what do we have to listen to? What is the number one tool? Whole foods, right? Regulates your blood sugar, prevents energy crashes, right? When your energy crashes, what's the first thing you want to grab? Candy bar. What's that? Sugar. What is sugar going to do? It's going to, one, send your glucose up really high. And then what happens is then you crash again. And for those of us who are concerned with insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity, having those blood sugar spikes is not smart. We want to have a regulated blood sugar pretty constant during the day, which is why I think breakfast is such a big, important, they say breakfast is the most important meal. Yeah, it really is. A healthy breakfast, the right breakfast. But again, it's going to start your day without that, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock crash. Whole foods are also going to support your hormones. It's going to help you balance, or I don't know if balance is actually the right word. Our hormones are never 100% equally balanced. They change hour by hour, day by day. But there really is a sweet spot, so to say. We want to make sure that we are supporting our hormones naturally, and whole foods will do that for us. Also going to improve your mood, your brain function, and your focus. So often clients are saying to me, I just can't focus on things. Like they'll sit there and they'll like, I was sitting at my desk and, I can't get anything moving, for like 10 minutes, like I'm staring at the computer. That's not a good way to get through the day, right? If we're just staring at the computer, not getting things done, not meditating. So, processed foods and sugar-laden foods, that will absolutely cause you to have those brain fog type of experiences, and we don't want those. Also going to strengthen your bones and protect your heart. There's a reason why whole food is on the planet, right? The planet, when man started walking around, we did not have Doritos, we did not have donuts. Although I do say a donut a day, no, a donut every now and then is a treat for me. So I'm never going to say no to donuts completely. I may just say no to donuts every day. Okay, very different. Anyway, again, whole foods are strengthening your bones. So is exercise, weightlifting specifically, or resistance training, and it's also cardioprotective. There are so many vitamins and minerals, amino acids, all of these things that are in whole foods that our body requires for optimal functioning. I will just say this: requires to function. Forget about optimally. If we're not eating these foods, we're not functioning well at all. When we're focusing more on whole foods, okay, 85% of the time, there's no perfection here. All or nothing. I'm not into the all or nothing mentality. That doesn't work. That's kind of like I said before, about restriction. As soon as, restriction doesn't make sense, we need a new strategy. The other thing, Whole Foods does so many things for us, but another one I want to mention, reduces inflammation, which is the root of so many of our symptoms, but also so many diseases that we as Americans, as people on this planet are struggling with today: cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes. All of these things really start with internal chronic inflammation. We can turn that off. We can turn the fire, put water on the fire, basically. And really to help us manage more of the symptoms that we're having in midlife. But it's not just about food, though. Though sometimes if you listen to me, you think it's all about food. This is about, okay, so my husband and I have an argument about this word. This is about longevity, living younger as you grow older. The term longevity, sure, it means long, how long you're going to live. My concept of longevity is, how well are you living while you're living? How well are you living while you're alive? That's actually what I was looking for. And I said this a second ago, it's living younger while we grow older, right? At 55, when I'm 55, I don't want to feel like an old lady, right? I want to still feel like I'm 35. Okay, so this week is the, oh gosh, 20, nope, sorry, 19th anniversary of my 35th birthday. Yay me. For those of you who didn't do the math, that I will be 54 this week. And truly, I feel better today at almost 54 than I did when I was in my early 40s, because that's when I really started to struggle with menopausal symptoms. And of course, I even changed the way I ate. I thought I ate okay back then, but it was just like Marta. Thought I was doing the right things. But once I started to focus more on whole foods and less on packaged foods, anything like that. I mean, even, rice or stuff in cans. Except for Italian tomatoes. It's really the only place I can get Italian tomatoes is in a can. Oh, that's not completely true. They come in a carton now, if you find them. Those are better for you. But I'm not going to get into that now. Sorry. I not just digress. I totally did a squirrel there. Sorry. So hormones and whole foods, right? Hormones and whole foods. Everything is rhyming today. And I don't know if I intended that, but everything is rhyming. Again, whole foods are, let's just call it your secret. That's not so secret because I'm talking about it, right? They don't just fill you up. That we don't want. We want to rebuild basically from the inside out. What we're putting in our food is strengthening us, our body, our physical body, our emotional body, our emotional body, our physical body, our mental capacities, all of these things, right? They help us to be stronger. They help us to have better energy. They help us to actually live our lives the way we want to, right? So again, they help you to rebuild from the inside out. So I talk about these whole foods. Give me some ideas here, Denise, right? Cruciferous veggies. They talk about this so much, and you kind of go, cruciferous veggies, what the heck is that? Those are foods like broccoli and cauliflower and kale. Now, we don't eat a lot of kale in my house because Mark does not like it. But there's so many other great vegetables that if you don't like one, just don't eat it and eat something else that you enjoy. These help your body to detox. Let's just say in some places, if we're kind of unbalanced, they help to not detox, to balance hormones, sorry. Healthy fats, avocados, olive oil, fatty fish like salmon. They are brain and heart healthy. So they're going to support your brain and they're going to support your heart, right? As we get older, we always, we hear about someone who, has heart failure at, 55. Wow, that's scary, right? Especially since I'm going to be 54. But also we know so many people who, whose brain function starts to decline. And it's not necessarily dementia or Alzheimer's, but they're just not feeding their body the way their body needs. They're not moving, they're not sleeping, they're not connecting with others. They don't have this passion or this, this purpose in life anymore. A lot of women struggle with that piece as the kids are, growing up and leaving the house, going to college, or moving out. Right? Purpose is such a big part of a healthy lifestyle and a healthy life. Um, some of the other things, berries and colorful fruits. We talk about eat the rainbow. Anything that looks very, really pretty in colors when it comes to foods, put them in your cart. They're great. Berries reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is basically, think about it's basically you're rusting from the inside out. Oxidative stress or oxidation is, for example, is like rust on your car. If you live in Minnesota, there's a rust on your car like after a couple of years if you haven't washed the car off uh, frequently in the wintertime because of the salt and all the crust and the dirt that comes up. So rust, do we really want to rust from the inside out? I don't know about you, but I certainly don't. So lots of berries and colorful fruits to reduce that inflammation. Whole grains and legumes, aka beans. They help you to stabilize your blood sugar and curb cravings. They basically help you stay fuller longer. And you don't need a lot of these. Like that's one of the things I remember when my niece became a vegan a bunch of years ago. She kept saying to me, she's like, Dee Dee, all I'm eating is beans. We did double check and looked at her diet and we brought some other things in. But for her, she wasn't eating meat. So beans really were that replacement. But now as she's 22 years old, she's much more in tune with her body and understands food a lot more and how it affects her when she's running or when she's at school. So these are nutrients in all of these foods. And I didn't get into this one has vitamin A, this one has vitamin C, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get into that today. That's kind of boring, right? We can all look at that. We can look that up on Google. But these are nutrients that are essential for our body through this transition. Okay, always really important for our body, but right now, while our body is doing all of these kind of crazy things and our hormones are all over the place, we're not sleeping, we really need to support our body in every way, shape, or form. If we want more energy, more ease in life, right? More emotional stability and clarity. Clarity is a big, big challenge for women. Again, I talked about the brain fog, but understanding where you are in life, what it is that's going on with your body, and ways to kind of help not fix, that's not the right word because we're not broken, but alleviate a lot of the symptoms and a lot of the challenges that we have through this transition. So if you feel like at this stage your body's betraying you, been there, I really understand this. You think you're doing everything right, but you're still tired and you're bloated and you've got brain fog and you are just miserable. Take a breath. Did you know that just 10 seconds of deep breathing can reduce stress? I just did it right there. So truly, you don't need another quick fix. You don't need a detox. You don't need a new diet. You need a shift, right? A shift towards whole foods, real food that honors your body. A shift in how you make your decisions from reactive to intentional. We live in such a reactive world. There's so many things going on today. Don't look at the news, don't look at your social media because you'll react to something. But we want to live our life and make decisions from a more intentional, a more thought out way. So another shift is how you hold yourself accountable with compassion, with love, not shame. Again, all or nothing mentality does not have a place here. Self-love has a place here. Curiosity has a place here. And these are not just strategies. These are the foundation for a new way of living in this new transition, this new phase of your life. So let's see. I just want to go through, make sure that I've touched on everything I wanted to touch on. For those of you who are curious how I help people, I do have a couple of private coaching spots available for women who are ready to break free from your diet culture, embrace a personalized whole person approach to menopause and midlife wellness. I also have my monthly hormones and harmony um, program. It's once a month. I host this. Please join me. Often I will give a little bit of a training, and then we open it up to conversation and questions because we all have questions, and so often we can help each other. I may be an expert in certain things, but my experience is not the same as your experience, and your experience could help someone else during those hormones harmony. So, would love to see you there, and I'll put the link to the next event in the show notes. What else? What else? What else? I think that's it. So what did we talk about? We talked about how whole foods are going to support your midlife um, body, your midlife mind, your midlife life. How making good decisions on what you're eating, how you're moving, and the decisions that you're making, the choices that you're making in life, whether it's getting to bed early and not um, binge watching Netflix. Um, and then, of course, the personal accountability. So all the different things that we talk about, for me, it always goes back to these three, this foundation: eat real food, make good decisions, be accountable. So that is what I have for you today, everyone. I want to thank you for joining me on Healthy Living, Happy Life podcast. Obviously, if this resonated with you, please share it with a friend because midlife is not the end and we're all in this together, right? So midlife is your reinvention. So let it be your friend's reinvention too. Okay. I will see you next time. We're here. A new podcast drops every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Central Time. And I will see you next time. Till then, I leave you with this: healthy living, happy life. Have a great day, everyone.